ballistic missiles flying, and I said, oh hey, now. Even if there is no capital, we can meet and we can roll. Even if there is no downtown, we can meet at the power lines now. Where did you get the impression that we'd all be okay?
This is absolutely massive. Now, you're going to hear some different things over the next 24 hours, but I feel like there is obviously going to be a difference in what they're going to say happened and the reality of the issue. We're going to tell you the official story of what is happening with everything over in the Middle East, and of course, we're going to tell you what we think. Now, 200, according to Yahoo News, 200 missiles were fired at Is. So this is crazy because the number has varied so greatly. We have heard from 180. Some sources have said up to 500. Now, one thing I don't get is why they would do a smaller strike than they did before. Or was that previous one that they said 300 missiles and drones, was that because it was 100 missiles and 200 drones or something like that? Another thing is if you see a ton of the videos that are coming out about this recent strike, a lot of folks are pointing out that you don't see a lot of these things getting knocked out in the air, that you actually see them hitting. Whereas the previous one, you saw a lot of chaff in the air, you saw a lot of them blowing up, you saw a lot of explosions. You didn't really see very much hitting the ground. A lot of the videos coming out now, which some even say, oh, it's all a bunch of AI. I'm sure some probably could be, and I'm sure people are making some of those just because they can. But as far as the thousands of folks over there saying that it is worse than what they are saying, it's up to your opinion. As far as Iran fired waves of missiles at Israel on Tuesday in what was called a revenge attack for Israel's taking out of leaders, including its top leader, Hassan Nasrallah. We just covered comments by Nasrallah the other day. Now he is gone, along with 4 other martyrs of huge significance to at least Iran and Hezbollah. So this is a massive deal. When Nasrallah was taken out, I said among all of my peers that this was a giant deal and that this was going to be a huge deal, that this might actually do it. And it did. We are sitting here today with the news of this massive strike. It is everywhere. I saw Asmongold TV covering it. He was playing videos of it. He normally covers like gaming and reviewing Lunchables. So again, this is massive. Across the nation here in the U.S., people are definitely on edge. Not to mention, we just covered the panic buying that is happening not only on the East Coast. A lot of commenters said that it is happening on the West Coast. The panic buying isn't even related to the war. It is actually related to the strike. A huge, massive strike happening at the same time as this other strike. So I guess we could call today the day of the strikes. We will be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough.
Even if there is no downtown, we can meet at the power lines now. even if there is no capital, we can meet and we can roll.
All right, so there is definitely a varying kind of opinion about all of this. The White House, Jake Sullivan advisor, is saying at the White House that based on what we know at this point, this attack appears to have been defeated and ineffective. So this is far different than the people on the ground that are speaking about it, and who knows, many of these might just be people that are kind of repeating it. One thing I did notice that's strange, to be devil's advocate here, is I looked at a lot of the same posts were repeated on X. As far as some of the posts about the conflict, a lot of them were basically copy and pasted. There's tons of accounts saying that it hit, so maybe that is Ganda from some sources over there. Maybe they have cell tree farms, putting out the news that 500 hit and that all of this happened and whatever else. I don't know. But one thing I do see is a lot of accounts and a lot of people saying that the dome partially failed or failed entirely in some ways. But again, that makes less sense than what I thought would happen, which especially since we moved in double of the ships and everything else. We just covered 2 nights ago or the night before that basically instead of replacing all of the Navy off of the coast of the Middle East, that they actually added to them. The same ships, the same troops that were supposed to replace the currently serving ships, which those ships, again, some of them were stuck because the gas refueler actually had damage and sunk or partially sunk. They actually added to that, and they said basically that it's such high tensions that we are, shoring it up. So you would think and this is a day before the attack. It's almost like, they had intelligence. I mean, come on, this is the U.S. They can hack every phone in the world. They can hack almost anything. So did they know that this was coming and they stopped it in its tracks and all of these videos are AI? I guess it will be up to you. That's the big thing. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
Now, remember, if you have questions about today, if you're new here and you're like, well, where are they getting all of this? We have a full bibliography. Not too many channels do this, especially independent ones. We have a full bibliography available on the website, marfooglenews.com. Not only do we have a full bibliography, we have all the tweets. Every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we are going to share here today is all going to be available over on the website. On top of that, if you do want to support independent, go over to the right side. You can see all of the different products that we recommend. Every product that we do recommend or throughout the show, these are all products that we think that will either save your life, make your life better through a disaster, or get you to that next point. So again, I hope that you guys consider sharing us out and hitting that all notification button when you get a chance. We put a lot of work into the show, and we do appreciate those who understand that. Let's go into, of course, we've got so much going on. Do you want to go into the next article here, and I'm going to load it up?
Well, and Adam, you made a great point when we were talking earlier about this. It just seems like they didn't even launch as many as they launched the time before. And, if these numbers are true, and that's the crazy part, is we don't really know how many, like you said, the numbers were 500, the numbers are 150, the numbers are 200, and I don't know that it really matters. The fact that Iran has engaged for a second time this year directly at Israel, the question is, what is Israel going to do? We saw the last time, it wasn't much. It was one small strategic strike, and they said they took out a weapons cache and called it good. But this seems a little different. And that's the main thing. Now, our current administration came out and said publicly that he has directed the U.S. military to help Israel shoot down any of those missiles. And that obviously has been underway. The U.S. has been coordinating closely with Israel Defense Forces to help defend against the missile attacks. That was the same thing that happened a few months back when they had that launch, about 300 or 400 when that went down. This time only 180, they're saying, I guess, or 200. So U.S. naval destroyers joined Israeli air defense units, firing interceptors to shoot down any of the inbound missiles. This was coming from, I think, Jake Sullivan in a briefing. So that's the story. The U.S. is involved, at least at this level. I think we'll probably be involved at a greater level if this continues to escalate. So that's the question. What is the response now?
Now, it says at the beginning, Major General Pat Ryder told reporters that 2 U.S. Navy destroyers fired approximately a dozen missile interceptors at the incoming ballistic missile barrage aimed at Israel. Is that a dozen? The interceptors are, one interceptor is a missile, correct? I mean, that's basically like...
Yeah.
So is that saying 12 in total?
Yeah, so 200 came in and we took care of 12.
See what I'm saying, Dex? Like, that doesn't...
It does. Yeah, I know. These numbers aren't making much sense. And I don't know, I think it's one of those things you got to wake up the next day and see what after the dust settles and the sun rises, what's actually happening.
Because remember also and this is what I almost think too, is during the day they try to keep you calm so the stock market doesn't have crazy reactions or something, I don't know. It just seems like this strike, there's a lot of oddities around it. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Speaking of comments down below, thank you guys for being here. Let's go over to the chat. Let's say hi. Let's do a quick roll call. And I think that's really important that we do pause for a second and recognize that we have community around us. We have really great people. We have, honestly, just a lot of really, really great people here. We're all asking the same questions. I see a lot of people about debating what is real and what is not. I sure hope that you're right. I hope that a lot of the stuff is fake. But on the other hand, I believe that this is going to get worse no matter what. Because if you do believe, you might not believe in the way it gets there. You do believe that at some point they're trying to change the way that we live drastically, so drastically that nobody would agree to it voluntarily. Tammy Driver, what is going on? South Carolina here. By the way, some of the folks in the East Coast, really insane how they are treating Helene. I'm praying for all of you. I just wanted to add that in. And I'm very, very sorry. One picture got to me especially. I don't know if you have seen this. And I didn't see if it was verified because a lot of people are sharing it. And I don't know if it is even correct. But the Helene, there was a pair of grandparents. Have you guys seen this? A pair of grandparents sitting on a roof. The water is up to the roof, and they're on a second story or even third story house. And there is a small, the granddaughter, wrapped up in a blanket on the roof. And there's a caption to it. And the caption was what really got me, is it said that it was the last that they were ever seen. So that really bothered me. And it made me think of my kids, and it made me think of just the natural disasters that can happen and how they're treating Helene is really bad. So somebody said that's true. A lot of people saying that's true. I don't know, I don't know if it's true or not, but I did say, if you've seen that picture, you know what I mean. It's just a weird feeling knowing that at that point, they're sitting there like, what the hell? And then if it got worse than that, which in many places it did, like I want an update. Like I want to know what happened. What happened to them?
I think that number's got to go higher. I think they were only reporting 120, 130 people at this moment, but I think it's got to go much higher when they dig out from the mess.
Somebody said you're truly on your own when it hits the fan. Look at Katrina. I mean, Katrina is a good example. This one is going to be another example. Hurricane Katrina was such a disaster. We've had, if you go way back, able-bodied actually ended up doing a 45-minute call-in, and people were glued to the screen on our show. Everybody was just blown away. I got emails for a year after that video. And it was her story about what happened during Katrina. She was a nurse during that time period. She had to have, it was martial law, and she had to be escorted to the hospital by basically these contractors. Super crazy. She said it was so shady. Everybody was on their own. And that's the thing. This is in the United States. The levee broke, all of that. People forget about these things. The youth don't even know about it. They don't know about 2001. They don't know about any of these events. And that's the thing. This generation, a lot of us, we're all older. I know our audience. You can literally see it in YouTube's data. Everybody here is over 40. And it's like, how are these young people going to survive? They don't know anything about anything right now. Look at the stats on how many of them have history, proficiency in history. It's insane. If you don't know your history, you're doomed to fail. Large come inbound. Donna Honey. M. St. G. What is going on? See, hear, think. I'm old as dirt. LOL. I'm 29. Too tall. There have been some younger people lately, and I think that's really, really amazing. 39. Yeah, I'm 37. But my audience has always been plus 50s, and that's because of the subject matter. I grew up with my mom, and my mom was old school. So I think that a lot of people relate to me because just like if you were a kid that always hung out with the older crowd, it's like you didn't act your age, you acted that age. 56, 26. I've never done an age thing here. Usually people are like, I don't want to tell my age. 45, 70, 63, high five, 66, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say names attached, but you're doing it. That's awesome. Nunu, Lisa Douglas, so many great people. Port situation worse. Wow, look at that. That is really cool. But like I said, mostly 40 plus. And be happy. We're part of the last generation that didn't have cell phones and all of this junk. So I'm proud to be older too. And I'm not older. I'm young. You guys are like, you whippersnapper. I'm proud to be part of that generation. I'm proud to have a childhood that wasn't decimated by cell phones and technology. It was tainted later on by the time I was in middle school, but it was not ruined. All right, let's go over. So of course they had the U.S. help. Dex, let's go over what JB directed the U.S. military to do during all of this and how it went down.
So as we explained earlier, there was approximately a dozen missiles interceptors that were fired. So our president did say publicly that we've been engaged in this, and according to Major General Pat Ryder, told reporters that the 2 Navy destroyers, so 2, fired a dozen missiles, so maybe 6 apiece out of the 200.
Yeah, it's just it obviously, and then at the same time, I think he even made a comment. Didn't he make a comment about Helene, that they're basically, they've got their budgets and they've got to work with it. It seems funny to me that all of the places that are affected by Helene in the next month, those areas are a lot of the areas that would be going out to do a certain thing. And they're basically not trying to help as much as many people think they should.
But billionaires are helping, right? Yeah.
That's right. And we're actually going to talk about that here in a second. Actually, I'll just pull it up right now since I have it here. Elon Musk. A lot of people are talking about how our former president is there. I believe he has truckfuls of furniture and different items. Elon Musk is doing what U.S. Prez should be doing, according to Doge Designer. He just announced Starlink will operate free of charge in affected areas with hundreds of terminals being sent to restore connectivity. What is the JB and Kamala admin doing? That was the question that was posed. What a weird image, by the way. Look, what a cool picture, by the way. Look at that. You've got this dude in that one and that dude in that one. That's pretty cool. But yeah, so a lot of folks are giving him praise for that. Is it going to be enough to, help? I mean, it's definitely helping. But the Helene is just such a horrendous situation right now. It's really bad. And then we should strike Khamenei. Senior Israel official calls for action against the leadership of Iran. Dex, do you want to go over this as well? I'm gonna load.
Can you imagine, like, they've taken out the different leaders, like they've got 5 now major martyrs as they're referred to, but these significant leaders of the different T cells. So imagine they go after Ali Khamenei and they go after the head of Iran. So if that's next,
supreme leader.
Yeah, the supreme leader. Yeah, it doesn't get any higher than him. So if they're suggesting, or the senior Israeli security official is urging Israel to take decisive action, and that's what I keep asking. Like, what's the response? What's Israel going to do in return? Because something's going to happen, and like we saw last time, it was, we'll take out a little strategic site, one hit here, and all is well. We'll move on. But I think it may be different this time. Now, they're suggesting they do something significant, like go after Al-Khamenei. I don't know that taking out just one person will change anything. It's not like that one person has all of the... It's a dictatorship on some regards, but it also isn't. Like, if you take out that one person, you're going to have a whole lot of angry people that are going to rally up behind that. So I don't know. I don't... It's not the same as, say, taking out Kim. Even that might still have the same negative effect. He
would be the biggest martyr out of all of them.
Exactly.
All of the countries would support a war after that.
Exactly.
And then look at what Ali Khamenei thinks right now. If this is being said by a senior Israeli official, I guarantee you Ali Khamenei is taking it seriously. He's probably thinking right now, the U.S. or other allies are going to help them try to get me. He's probably paranoid as hell right now after that comment. That's a pretty ballsy comment to say at this point right now. Go ahead.
And don't forget, Adam, we've been covering, and it continues to be part of the conversation, at least in Israel. We just haven't necessarily covered the pickups on it, but they have been talking about numerous attempts at taking out Israel's leadership coming from Iran. I think the last one we covered on the show was an Israeli national who was being paid, only got like, what was it, $5,000 as a down payment, but it was supposed to be $1 million job. And he was from out of the country and coming back in to take out Netanyahu or somebody like that. So they've got these targets on both sides now, and they're active, very active, at least on the inside Israel.
When we first covered that, by the way, it's $5,000, and I was saying, gosh, that was so low. And then it was like the other part of it was like, yeah, it wasn't $1 million contract, but like, look at the guy who sat on the roof, whoever that actually was, the guy that sat on the roof and tried to take out T-Man. Whoever was paid $5,000 with the promise of getting, what is it, $995,000 or whatever after he does it, it's like the chances are you're going to get taken out doing it. I'm just surprised somebody would be willing to for $5,000. Like, even though you're promised $1 million, it's like I would want like $500,000 and like 5 days of cruise before I even try to do something like that. That would be insane. Let alone take $5,000 and be like, yeah, you'll get the rest of it later. Think about that from the government perspective. What if they just don't hold up their deal? You end up, doing something insane for $5,000. I don't know. That's just nuts. Now, somebody said, great comment. They said, they spent all this money on other countries right now. Helene is just sitting there in the state it is. It's horrendous. Redonk, elder millennials. Yes, exactly. A lot of great people here. Olga Turan. Yeah, thank you. And M. St. G says, thank you for being independent news. Thank you. I appreciate that. Speaking of which, if you guys want to protect yourself against EMP, this is a device that not only, with the purchase of this, you're not only protecting yourself, you're also helping protect us as well. You're helping independent news, and you are getting the same device and the same company that is outfitting agencies like DHS and DOD. EMP Shield was actually mentioned in the 2018 EMP Resilience Report. That same DHS report told us to have 6 months to a year worth of food each. Yeah, pretty huge amount if you think about what the regular household is trying to deal with right now. But again, this is a device that will allow your car to run after multiple EMP strikes or a Carrington level event from the sun. Carrington level event being basically the big solar event that everybody's talked about. If it happens, it could knock down our entire grid. If we lose power, we lose infrastructure. If we lose infrastructure, we lose water. And if we lose water, we lose people. They say 90% of us could perish in the first year. And this is purely because of either an EMP or a Carrington level event. Both of those things, if we didn't send billions off somewhere else, we could have. I believe with the money that we sent other places and that we've probably spent on stupid stuff as a country, I believe that they probably, if they really just put it in and said, we need to have this done by next week, I bet they could have hardened our entire grid 10 times over by now. But they haven't. There was an executive order back when T-Man was in office and he wanted to harden our grid. He did that executive order. It is one of the very, very few executive orders that the current prez did not unsign. So it is in the process. Companies like EMP Shield are actually in this executive order or part of it or being called up because of it. And they are trying to basically outfit and retro, basically upgrade our grid. It is not happening at a fast pace. It is happening at a snail's pace. And we are so vulnerable that basically I don't think that 90% number would have changed by now. So go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. You can also get other devices. They have different sizes, different versions for your home, for your motorhome, for your motorcycles, trucks, your generators, your gas, and solar in the case of the Energy Flex 1500. And they are in stock over at EMP. Energy was out of stock of the version of EMP, but if you go to EMP directly, you can still get those at marfooglenews.com/EMP, code MARF. Ads like this that nobody likes ads. These help independent people like us because we're covering what they don't want covered. Thank you guys for also sharing us out. Very much appreciated. All right, now Dex, let's talk about the 6 perished. Or again, there's a lot of debate around this.
Right. So this is the kind of thing. So this type of activity happens. So some people were taken out in an event that happened in Tel Aviv. So when you think about the fact that missiles are flying, but at the same time there's ground operations happening, and those ground operations are happening very much like T groups doing them, and you think about those types of activities. I'm trying to avoid saying some of the buzzwords, sorry guys, but you should get the point. You absolutely know what we're talking about here. So this went down in a rail station. They literally came in blazing, and at the same time that you've got missile launches going on. So when you think about the conventional conflict, you're dealing with a country, when it comes to Iran and all of its proxies, that doesn't do anything. Doesn't just do conventional by firing a bunch of missiles, but also does the unconventional. And this type of activity that we have been plagued with, but of course Israel's been plagued with much more, is something that we all need to be prepared for as it relates to what may come in the future. We've got plenty of folks that we know, sleepers that are possibly in our country that have come across for many years, many in the last year potentially, and many via another one of the allies of these BRICS nations, Venezuela, who has ties and has the HES in their country. So, this type of thing is while it's unfortunate what happened there, and you're looking at something that happened on the other side of the world, you're not worried about it. You also have to pay attention to how this may play out in the U.S. as we're engaged in this conflict in the Middle East. Well, and that's what's important to pay attention to.
When Nasrallah was taken out, what I said is they're not only looking at Israel. They already had a plan. I'll say it just real quick. T-Man took out Soleimani for a reason. He did a public announcement saying that he took him out because they found through intelligence that they had a plan to attack us here in the United States that made 2001 event look like chicken feed. Do you think that plan went away? Let me know. With that being said, Nasrallah, they believe that there may be help there or whatever else. They look at the two countries as the one and the same, because if they want to take Israel out, they have to deal with the U.S. too, or do that. And I don't think they can, right? Well, now we have China, Iran, Russia, Venezuela, North Korea, all teaming up. They're all no limits partners at this point. They haven't said it in an article yet. China and Russia are the no limits partners, but you can basically assume, and Cuba and all of these other places that are jumping in. A lot of these other countries that are secretly going, hey, we want to join BRICS and we want this new currency that pushes the dollar out. This is happening right now. And there are people up above, all countries, including our own, that support that. They want, instead of, oh, this is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they want it all to be one. So with all of this stuff that's going on, every time we talk about these kind of events, people go, oh, or every time, so Dex mentioned that they have sleeper cells here. People go, oh, that's just a bunch of fear. Believe this. They're everywhere. They're all around us. They're on the bus next to you. They're everywhere. And by they, I don't just mean Iran. There are agents from China. There are agents from Russia. There are agents from Cuba, I'm sure. There's agents from North Korea. They are here. They are already here. And if you think that it helped that all of these millions of people in the last few years suddenly had this kind of easy way in, or at least the crowds to be able to sneak in, and the rules and the in hindsight, the stupidest system where you get across, even if you do get caught, they go, oh, here's your court date. Now we're going to release you at the court date later. If they show up, that's when they got all of their background done. This was admitted or leaked. I don't know remember which one it was, but that's insanity. We are in a very tough spot here in the United States, but realize no matter where you're watching from, that's going to be a domino effect on your country. Especially if you're watching us right here, you're most likely in a Western nation, and you are most likely going to be affected by all of this. This conflict, I saw somebody else post on X. In fact, I'm going to pull it up real quick. Let's see here. So, yeah, this was let me do a reply. Let's see here, my replies. So there was a reply. Yeah. So this person says, so Laura posted, last year President T-Man, let me stop this. Last year President T-Man warned of what would happen if JB and 1 weren't removed. I will stop the Third World War, and we are very close to starting World War. World War III is now commencing. Iran just launched ballistic missiles, right? This one person says, how is a Middle Eastern regional conflict considered World War III? Is it spreading to Europe, Asia, Latin America, Africa, or North America? I don't think so. Let Israel fight its enemies in the Middle East and win as usual. Don't see why people exaggerate and call it World War III. I said, so again, you can read my tweet over there, but basically, I don't know if it's the bias towards the poster or just a lack of information. But a war with Israel and Iran, a direct war, not a proxy, that is a war with the U.S. And a war with the U.S., with all of the Middle Eastern countries that are now saying that they are going to jump in, that is going to turn into a world war, no doubt about it. And I think that's just a lack of knowing how this is all going to play out as it does. So I really hope that people have been listening the last 5 years, because it is going to get spicy. U.S. prepares for drone-on-drone battles in military bases. No surprise here. This is also, it's kind of crazy if you go back 5 years to our shows when we were covering some of the, because drones, they've been a thing for quite a while, especially like the Predator drones and things like that. They go way farther back. But the drones we're talking about, they have the Replicator program. And the Replicator program is this whole thing that they've put together. It's their answer to kind of this modern warfare thing. I've said for 6 years, this next war is going to be bonkers. It's going to be drone on drone. And now we're seeing it. It says U.S. military bases will be protected by attack drones under Pentagon plans to repel groups in the Middle East. On Monday, Lloyd Austin, the defense secretary, announced that the U.S. would expand its Replicator program, which has been developing American attack drones to be deployed against China. And they don't mince words there. They are making American attack drones to be deployed against China. A new phase of the program will focus on defensive drones to be deployed at U.S. installations at home and abroad. So listen to that, at home. You're going to see military drones by Fort Lewis and every other freaking base. You're going to see drones hovering around that are armed in the United States. It follows months of drone attacks on U.S. bases in the middle by militant groups, and one taking out 3 troops at a site in Jordan in January, which that alone, everybody questioned, is this going to be a world war or an active war? U.S. forces have a variety of defenses against so-called drones, which are packed high with explosives and flown into military compounds. The existing defenses include electronic jamming devices and anti-aircraft machine guns. Talking about crazy drones with anti-aircraft. Absolutely bonkers is the only way I can describe that. Monday's announcement suggests that Pentagon expects drone battles to become commonplace. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. What is that going to mean to us, though, if these are in bases around us here in the States, Adam? What do you think about that? I mean, I know, and how hard is it for them to add additional capability to those drones, and it then go down from the military to the police?
I told everybody, told you so. I said it's going to be like Watch Dogs London or whatever the video game is, where you're going to have delivery drones, you're going to have military drones, you're going to have police drones, you're going to have every kind of drone in the sky. I knew this 4 years ago, because the FAA has been clearing space. When I talked about it, it was because I am a hobby drone pilot as well. And my DJI has recently turned into basically a brick. But again, I knew this because they started clamping down on hobbyists, and they started clamping down on that certain zone of air. We knew this was coming. That is the thing, and especially the military drones and the police drones and all of these, you already see police drones. In the ghetto area, when I lived in a ghetto area in Seattle, it's actually, I loved that neighborhood as crazy as it was with SWAT, raids every other day. But South Park, they would park the SPD headquarter truck, or it was like a mobile home. They would park that thing. They had drone that permanently landed on the roof, and it would take off, and it would just be watching. And it has a bright light on it. It wasn't bright like it would shine down. It was absolutely silent. And it had a light on it, basically a little blue light or a green, I can't remember. But that means it was recording. They have had those in downtown Seattle. In the bad area, they call it the Blade. It's like where all the drug deals and, bang bangs and happen on 3rd and Pike. So this is already happening. Just imagine when you've got military armed drones flying around. One thing I thought of, Dex, is like, what if one of these things has a propeller go out and lands in your yard with a, crazy machine weapon on it or something? I'm sure they would run up to your house real quick and know exactly where it is, but that's crazy.
But they're going to be programmed to automatically do things. They're going to be programmed with AI. And what's going to happen when that goes awry, or what's going to happen when its programming is misinterpreted incorrectly and it starts, taking a civilian out in the wrong area where the civilian was allowed to be? I mean, there's just all sorts of things that are going to have to go wrong before this ever gets right. And I don't even know that it ever gets right. Who really wants lethality controlled and managed by, autonomous systems that are flying in 3-dimensional space all around us? That just sounds pretty scary.
Yeah, this is something that has been in the works for a long time. This is also something that it's happening. These systems, but they're also saying in this article, they're preparing. They're talking about this. They're going to start preparing to tell us it's for our safety. Now there's this big threat from Iran and all this. Now we're going to be told, the media is going to change its tune. It's going to say, it's not safe here anymore. Then they're going to start putting drones up all over the place. And some people will cheer it on and be like, oh, I feel so safe with that, 50 cal right above me. I just love having 50 cals floating over my head. Yeah. You know who we're talking about. And again, I'm sure San Francisco is going to get them first. So moving on, we've got NATO nation says sending troops to Ukraine. Serious option. Dex.
Well, according to Benjamin Haddad, the French Minister for European Affairs, France continues to pound this idea that, they have got zero problem sending in troops. We've talked about this before, and they continue to do it. I think they've even bragged that they have trained over 100,000 UKR troops there. But as the debate rages on whether Western weapons should be allowed for strikes, Haddad was asked about their latest stance on military assistance. And he's, quote unquote, said President Macron has said that we cannot rule out anything and that it still applies, in particular to training missions. So they use that notion of training missions as the way to soft pitch the fact that they want to send in French troops, in addition to just having them be here on the ground, so to speak, and training in France as opposed to putting them into UKR.
Yep. And when Macron said months and months ago, well, he was in an interview, it was like a 2020, he's like, well, just, people need to stop saying like, oh, we can't get involved. We might need to get involved. We might need to put people in there. It's for our safety too. I mean, it was super obvious what was going to happen there. But Wages World says, I want to say thanks all who prayed for my dad with the bee he swallowed and was in the hospital. He's doing much better. Wages, that is so insane. Gosh, I remember I thought it was crazy when my childhood friend got stung on his eyelid and he was allergic, and that was extremely scary, especially if you're allergic or something like that. It's really bad. Wages, I'm hoping fast recovery, and I'm hoping that he's totally okay. Glad to hear he's doing better. Scott Dixon, let's go. Keep up the goodiest workers, Marf and Dex. Mods, you guys rock. USA versus USA. US, we must be prepared and aware. I agree, Scott. And then Celtic Warrior, don't be scared, be prepared. Trust in the Lord and do the best you can. Celtic, I agree with that 1,000%. And yeah, don't be scared, be prepared is super cliche at this point, but it is absolutely true. The people in this audience, any of the scary headlines that are popping out right now. So I think the people that say fear, it's their first time on the show, they're watching and they see a scary headline and, oh, this is scary. To us, this is daily life. We already know this is coming. By the time the strike happens, we've been talking about it for weeks. We're already adjusted to it. As far as World War III, I don't think any of us are going to blink. Do you? Dex, are you going to blink when World War III officially kicks off and when you start seeing New York Times saying World War III is official? Like, I mean, they never. No,
because in my mind, it's already started. It started a while back, but I get it. Like when it kinetically starts with U.S. troops kinetically in multiple locations, I won't be shocked or surprised. We've been talking about this for a long time. We're prepared for it.
Yeah, well, just remember, World War II wasn't called World War II until almost the end. That's how it works, how media works, and how they're able to kind of keep people going and everything else. I can't remember. We looked up the first actual newspaper that said World War II and like coined it that was way after it started. So we could be in the middle. People wait until that headline by New York Times, like, we are in World War III. I think World War III started at the end of World War II. I mean, speaking of Carrington event, we had an X7 solar flare today aimed almost straight at us. Thankfully, no big CME detected. Another bullet dodged. Craig Alicious, thank you for your support and thank you for the heads up. Carol, thank you for the back-to-back super stickers. I appreciate that. Thank you, and thank you. All right, and let's go back to the map. California passes a law protecting your brain data. Dex, do you want to go over this?
So they're not the first. Colorado was to amend their privacy law to include neural data, but California is proposing a bill to actually protect your brain data as it relates to data. Now, some say it's not needed because it falls into this category of biometrics, but many other people suggest that it does need to be covered because there's a lot more that can come from brain information besides just standard biometrics or thinking of just your specific thoughts. There's also inferences that can be made from data in your brain and they're trying to, I guess some are looking at this as a way of, hey, with all of this new technology coming out, everything from super advanced, Neuralink capability where you're putting probes into the brain to even lighter stuff that just might attach to the outside, like a headband type arrangement where it can pick up other types of information from like EEG sensors. The question comes, what is going to be allowed from these companies to do with it? And the great question is, like, look at somebody like 23andMe, who we've talked quite a bit about, who has all your DNA data, at least those that submitted to it and paid money to submit to it, and they did it for other reasons to get a lot of information, but that information is now stored. It's owned by that company. That company can is apparently up for sale or potentially up for sale. But, when the next neurotech company comes out and has some sort of technology that it can tap into your brain when you're walking by it, or headphones that you're listening to music on or whatever, what is the protection we have as individuals from those companies taking our brain data? And I think that's an interesting question. And, for the many things we sort of scoff at California for doing, it's interesting to see them take up this particular issue. I don't know if they'll do it correctly, but you never know.
Yeah. So with brain data, right? So the tech isn't exactly there yet, but we do know that you can actually read brainwaves from outside of your head. So imagine if they have tech, and this is kind of a crazy thing to think about, to protect brain data. What if in the future, as Elon says, you'll be able to save your memories like on a hard drive? You'll actually be able to take your brain and save it like a game and I guess put it into a computer. I don't know. It's so crazy to think about that. You would still perish. Maybe a copy of you would be there, but it's not you. Your soul's gone. But as far as this goes, Minority Report type thing. Now, if they do figure out how to do this from the outside to basically understand what you're thinking, think about if you walk in a grocery store and or get cut off in traffic and you say, God, I want to take that guy out. All of a sudden, one of the poles on the side of the freeway says that guy is thinking about committing a crime. And then, boom, you get pulled over for thinking about, murder or something. We can't even fathom this right now, but that's why I believe, we're going to see a lot more of this about brain data. This is really weird stuff. I can't believe we're here. I can't. We all thought we'd be in flying cars, but instead, we're trying to guard our brains. And before we move on, make sure to go check out Jace. If you haven't already, make sure to go get yourself a Jace case. This is an easy service to use. It's a telehealth appointment, essentially on your phone or on your computer. You can do it from the comfort of your couch, and you can get yourself some of the most commonly prescribed antibiotics in a handy case. That is what's called the Jace case. Now, the Jace case is actually much cooler than that as well, because you can also add things into that. You can add in iodine tablets. You can add in albuterol breathers. You can also add in certain things that were extremely hard to get just because CNN said so. So there is, again, other things that you can get on there as well. There's tons of add-ons, and then that kit will be handy in any kind of emergency where you can't just go to the hospital or you can't go to the pharmacy. These are all things that major preppers, you have probably already done. And if you're new to prepping, it is definitely one of the best ideas as far as having antibiotics, because especially since the U.S. is now gearing towards China, if we ever eventually go to war with China, Guess who makes almost all of the antibiotics? China. They also have Jace Daily, real quick, if you are a caregiver or if you have a regular medication that you take every day. That is an awesome thing. Jace Daily is a 12-month extended supply of your prescription meds. So that means the lights turn off tomorrow. You then have whatever prescription you have left plus a year. That's an extremely handy thing to have. Dex, go ahead.
I wonder how many of those imported pharmaceutical components or straight up pharmaceuticals from China are going to be delayed because of port closures. Whether they're delayed because the West Coast becomes crowded, or they're delayed because they were normally headed to the East Coast.
Well, the thing with the strike that we talked about yesterday, we haven't mentioned today, so if you missed that show, go back to the one about the strike, is if you look at all of the actual ports that are closed down, it's virtually, just massive, the whole East Coast virtually. The West Coast is not on strike right now. They very well could follow suit, but as we speak, where is all the stuff going to go? If it means that all of these ships that we're going to go into there and all these containers that we're going to go there, does that not mean that, this stuff's still got to move, so it's going to go around to somewhere else. Once it goes to somewhere else, that place is now going to have double of everything, triple, quadruple of what they were getting. That means they're going to be slower. They have the same staff. It's going to take 3 times, 4 times as long. Is this on purpose? Was this done so they're going to be so swamped that things are going to slip through the cracks? All of these ports have systems to check everything for different things, but if you are that swamped, I'm pretty sure humans make mistakes. So it just seems like the timing on all of this is absolutely insane. But yeah, if you go over there, go check it out. Again, it not only gives you a good discount, but it also helps us as well. We are on our own. We don't have a multi-channel network. We put a lot of work into the show, basically to be, I guess, treated as the bottom of the barrel. So thank you guys for doing so. And then,
even if the components, Adam, don't come, aren't part of that, let's just say they're flown in on planes. There are things like the plastic containers you get at your pharmacy, right? Those they're not made here. They're not made in America. They come from China. So we saw that. We saw those small plastics when it came to something like hand sanitizer. They were sold out. They couldn't even get it back when we had that, problem with the CV. So just something as simple as not being able to have the, child-proof caps and the little bottles that every pharmacy has because they can't get into the port now and they're out. How are they going to distribute?
There's a lot of stuff. Folks are talking about dog food and cat food right now. A lot of people have emailed me to tell me because they know I have cats and dogs, to go get dog and cat food. We try to do everything kind of bulk wise just because it's cheaper. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea. And then Sean Diddy Combs hit with a wave of 120 new allegations, all relating to different victims that have come forth. I'm sure that's insane amount too. It says one of the quotes here, Busby, a person putting on this press conference, "We will expose the enablers who enabled this conduct behind closed doors. We will pursue this matter no matter who the evidence implicates." Those are some pretty big words. At the press conference held on Tuesday, Texas-based attorney Tony Busby said he was representing 120 accusers with allegations against the entertainment mogul that occurred over 20 years. Many powerful people, many dirty secrets, the lawyer said of the allegation. He added that his team has collected pictures, videos, and texts. Are we just in the Twilight Zone right now? Everything's about to be turned upside down. It's just getting absolutely insane. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, the lawyer has also claimed that he's got over 3,000 individuals that have come forward to his office with accusations against Combs. So not is it just that there's 120 new, He's got over 3,000. That's crazy. I mean, maybe he's just making this up, but I've got a sneaking suspicion he's not.
Well, if everything they say is true, this guy Diddy was like every single day had this crazy stuff going on in his house. He was doing parties with 500 people, 600 people, doing freak offs or whatever they called them. Think about every single week for 20 years or whatever, because they say it goes back 20 years. That's going to involve a lot of people. It's going to involve a lot of celebrities, a lot of politicians. This whole crowd. How can you then trust, if you knew this stuff is going on and it's very obvious, it's talked about, you know that, you know, even your favorite politician, like there was the one senator guy, it's like everybody loves him, but he's best friends with somebody who does stuff like this, then how would you not know that this guy is best friends with somebody that everyone knew what they were doing? Everyone knows it. What kind of character do you have to have a best friend like that? Just saying. And it's crazy. Diddy was friends with all of these people. He's got pictures with all the senators and all these congressmen and all these politicians. Same with like Jay-Z and all these other people. I'm waiting for them to pop out and say that Jay-Z is just absolutely disturbing. You know, what's the deal with them? Are they? I don't know. But I'm just waiting for the day. Panic buying already spreading. Now, the whole strike is a massive ordeal in itself. To break it down pretty quickly, though, I mean, the strike is happening. The whole East Coast, or virtually a ton of it, is shut down right now. And that, on top of the hurricane, people have been panic buying. And we're talking about empty shelves. This is not good. People are going for the same stupid stuff. I mean, the toilet paper, a lot of people didn't get that. Water, though, I do understand that. And, of course, all sorts of other items are now on this list of things that now people are saying are harder and harder to get to, because once the panic buying starts, it starts a chain reaction. Everybody is freaking out. So with this, I hope that many of you understand the premise of this whole thing, this whole show. Prepping is so you are not one of the people in this city where there's none of this. You don't worry about things like this. If you are a prepper, you've done it slowly over time. You did it smart. You did it efficiently. You did it affordably. And you don't have to worry when there's nothing on the shelves, because it's on yours. That's why we prep. This kind of stuff happens every few years. I mean, it doesn't matter. It might be a regional disaster. It might be a flood. It might be this. But this action happens every time humans freak out. So I hope that many of you, back when we told you a few years ago, just, hey, you've got time. Start slow. Do a little bit at a time. Do payday preps by Alaska Prepper. He showed you tons of things. For about $10 a week, you could put just a little bit into it. Dex, go ahead.
You're spot on, and I kind of share that sentiment just because of the fact that we've been, since before CV, we've been well prepared when it comes to stuff like this. So we don't panic buy, we don't worry about it. But there's certain things you can't avoid, and like one of the things that I keep in mind, and it's a good reminder when this type of event is happening, is like fuel in your gas tank. Like, don't let the tank go to empty. Like, get in the habit of filling up every quarter tank or every half a tank. The more frequently you fill, the more chance you have of being fuller when you can't find it again. So, those little habits you can change, because you can't really stock fuel. I mean, you can, but it's reasonably, you can't just stock up, hundreds or even 1,000 gallons of fuel at your home. It just doesn't make logical sense. So there's certain things like that just change some habits.
Raise your hand in the chat, or say so if this is you at some point in your life. When I was in my 20s, and back when you could put $5 in your gas tank, get to work, and get home, I would put $5 in. I'd put a couple, 3 or 4 gallons in. I would put 2 gallons in or something. I had a Honda at the time. I would always get to a quarter tank of gas at most, right? Put 15, 20 bucks in it, or 10 bucks, whatever. And then I would run it to the E-light, and then I would put gas in it again. Basically, I looked at true empty as like, I even did the math. Like, it was 40 miles after that light came on that I knew. But I wouldn't wait until that point. I would wait until the light came on and got gas. You should think of the gas light coming on at either a half a tank at the very least, or a 3/4 tank. If you do that, it's just the same. I was always putting 10 bucks in at that. If I had a full tank of gas, started out with that, and every time I got to 3/4 tank, I basically thought I was on the red line, I would always be putting the same amount of money in, but I would be filling my tank, and then when an emergency happens, then you're set. At least you can get a couple hundred miles. Depending on your car, depending on if you have a truck or something, it's like, then you can get like 4 miles, you can cross the street. And now you probably get out of your driveway at least to your mailbox. But that's how, did any of you do that as well? I know a lot of you now fill your tanks, but gosh, it was like I was constantly on E. When I was doing the same thing, I could have had a full tank, but when I had a full tank, you know what I did? I drove it until it was empty. And it was because it's an inconvenience thing. It's like, I don't want to stop and do gas. Gas stinks. It sucks. I don't want to get out and pump it and sit there. But that's what you have to do now. You literally have to do that. Tank is bank. Yeah. Jeez. When I was a teenager, yeah, I was so dumb. Just because I'm thinking about it. That same Honda that I'm thinking about, the engine dropped out in the middle of the freeway. You know why? I didn't change my oil, and I didn't add water to the car. Like, didn't change it ever. I was such an idiot. If anybody else has done that, you probably won't admit it, but I mean, I'm not kidding. It dropped out of the car on a freeway. Horribly scary and horribly dumb. And that's what happens when you don't have a dad. Or at least somebody who teaches you about changing your oil or adding water. Pretty dumb. All right, and then make sure to watch that short video over on Marfoogle News. Make sure to head over there right now and share that out with a friend and family member. Dex, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And if you are looking to stock up, this is one of the most affordable ways you can do it. And this is a great thing because if you actually do the math, buying bulk is always better. If you go to Costco and you get, the thing is you get too much of something you can't ever use, like 40, bins of jam or something. It's like it take you 10 years to use it. But this is great because this at the 3-month, if you end up getting the 3-month, which I believe it will vary depending on when you watch this, but you can get up to $200 off on a 3-month plan. And that's something that the math works out where it is actually cheaper than a single meal, just a regular meal in one day. Not 3 meals, but 1 meal in one day. It's about the same price as it works out for an entire day of 3 meals and a 2,000 calorie diet. So that's pretty incredible. On top of that, this food lasts 25 years. It's all vacuum sealed into Mylar bags. And then, of course, it is stored in buckets. Now, you can get a couple pieces. I know somebody who gets just a couple meals or gets a couple packets of this and that when they can. Every time they get paid, they just get a little bit. They have a budget. They put it out and they go, I want to get this, this, and this, but I'm just going to get a little bit. You can get a 72-hour kit, which is a 3-day pack. That way, you can get one of those for each of your family. And if you have to go somewhere, you guys all have meals. The 3-month plan, again, too, if you get that, you have a month for 3 people, a month and a half for 2 people, or 3 months for 1. So you could also, if you're trying to, outfit a whole family with a plan, it gets expensive. And this is one of the most affordable ways to survive. So go to marfooglenews.com/prep. They have other stuff like iodine tablets, battery banks, and of course, purifiers, air and water. They actually have the Alexa Pure Pro, which this thing, that's another thing that you'll want to think about as one of your first kind of top priority is water. All right, and then again, huge giant discount. You're not just donating to your favorite show, you're helping them out, and you are getting something out of it. You get to keep, practically forever with the food. But that Alexa Pure Pro, definitely a good idea, especially with all of the different chatter about our water systems. Dex, thank you, and thank everybody that's here. Love you guys. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.
Even if there is no down flying, and I said, oh hey, where did you get the impression that we'd all be okay? I saw ballistic missiles flying, and I said, oh hey, where did you get the impression that we'd all be okay? I saw ballistic missiles flying, and I said, oh hey, lines now. Even if there is no gap